underway, broadcasting to you from our North Catholic studios in Cranberry Township with our 12th episode of our podcast on North Catholic Athletics. My name is Alex Brown.
And I'm Ryan Berry.
And together, we are your hosts for this podcast. And Ryan, we are in playoff mode now here at North Catholic as the winter sports seasons are coming to a close.
Yes, we are. The boys got it kicked off beating Montour in the first round of the playoffs on Monday, 53-41, in a game that really wasn't the game we expected. We expected them to go out and just drain a lot of threes and kind of push Montour away. But they won it by playing good defense, which is, they've played good defense this year, but they usually have won games by hitting threes, and they only made 3 threes in that whole game.
Nick Larson got the first 3 of the game, but it wasn't until over halfway through the third quarter. And that's something that we've, as you said, we've never seen from North Catholic this year, as they've been able to. But that's also an interesting thing, that they were able to win a game without having their best shooting. They didn't have to rely on the 3 to win that game. And that was a scrappy team in Montour. They had a lot of tall guys that were really messing up the paint. And North Catholic was able to overcome that and keep in good range in the rebound battle, which is something that when the rebounding is good, that's really been their telltale sign of if they're going to win that game or not, as it was against Central Catholic.
You look at some of their losses, like the 2 Lincoln Park games, the biggest thing in that game that really went to the loss was the rebounding. They couldn't rebounding. They could score in those games pretty good, but they just couldn't defensive rebound, and Lincoln Park just got so many second chance points. And I believe Andrew Madelon led the team with 22 points on Monday. Max Rahman added 10 as well.
And it was a really gritty performance by the Trojans, as they're not going to be playing Uniontown at Norwin High School, and that will be on Thursday in the second round of the WPIAL playoffs. And Uniontown this year, they've been pretty good. They scored 75 points per game, and it's going to be an interesting test for North Catholic, as Uniontown was only behind Laurel Highlands in their section. And
they had one win against the Laurel Highlands as well.
They won one, yeah.
They lost them last game in the regular season. At home they played 75-69, but they beat them earlier in the year 61-57. They're a team that can score, but they play a lot of good defense as well. You look at a lot of these conference games, they're allowing less than 60, 50 points in a majority of them. The kind of outliers of the Laurel Highlands game where they let up. They let up only 57 the first time against Laurel Highlands, let up 69 the second time, but they're playing good defense. And so that's kind of led to a lot of their successes. Yes, North, they're going to have to score. Uniontown's going to try to take away the 3, and it might be a type of Montour game where you might have to win by your defense.
You might have to. And that 75 points that Uniontown is averaging, that's the third most in the WPIAL for any basketball team. And so that's going to be something North Catholic's going to have to overcome. But they can shoot with the best of them if their shooting's on. And we'll see how that game goes on Thursday night, as we wish them the best of luck. And we know that they have the capabilities to win that game. And hopefully we're talking about a semifinal matchup when we come on the air next week. And with that, let's look at the girls basketball team, Ryan, as they've both the boys and the girls basketball team, since we last talked, played in the Don Graham Classic, in which the boys beat Central Catholic in a game that they never trailed. And it was a remarkable victory before they headed into playoffs with so much momentum, as it was for the girls team who beat Oakland Catholic, Ryan.
Yeah, they did. We can talk a little bit about that Oakland game. The Oakland, they were considered the best team in the WPIAL, and it was a game that many thought the Eagles could just come in to North Catholic and just dominate from start to finish. But the Trojanettes came out that one. They were down 8-0, I think, at the start or something like that, or 6-0. Then Ava Walker just took control early, had 9 straight points to give North the lead. I think it got to 9-8 at that point or something like that. And then they just kept battling the rest. They were down at half, and then they made a run in the second half and just took the win. And that was a huge win, a win that I thought would propel them to the first seed.
I don't know how it didn't. Yeah. North Catholic had everything in their favor, and that win against Oakland was decisive. And when you go against the best team in the WPIAL as it's ranked, how does that not make you a first seed? And they played Erie Cathedral Prep earlier in the year. They beat Erie Cathedral Prep, and Blackhawk plays Erie Cathedral Prep, and they lose to them towards the end of the year. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I don't like comparing the games that are played early in the year because teams change so much. But when you I think that beating the best team in the final game of the year is like,
it has to do something.
It should, and it just didn't make much sense why it didn't give them the first seed. They're both undefeated in conference, right?
Yep.
And you see the 2 teams are undefeated in conference. Then you look at non-conference games. did the Trojanettes do bad enough in non-conference games? The Blackhawks do that much better than them, but they deserve the 1 seed over North Catholic.
And I think that Oakland loss definitely hurt them because they ended up being the 2nd seed in their playoff bracket, which is something something crazy.
It can't work both ways.
It can't work both ways.
Hurt Oakland and not help North.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. The girls know what they have to do.
They do.
They're gonna have to play good either way, and they get started off
Friday.
Yeah, Friday against
Beaver
area, and Beaver, they put a whooping in their first round game as well against West Mifflin, 58-32. The 7 seed, so they're coming in hot and they're ready. North Catholic's got the rest. Hopefully they can knock the rust off though.
And Beaver has had phenomenal defense this year, Ryan. They're only giving up 31.5 is their average, so 32 points per game this season, which is remarkable in basketball. And we'll see what that turns into in this game against North Catholic. As obviously, I'm sure they have a lockdown D. North Catholic struggled a little bit against the press of Oakland Catholic. And I don't know if that's something they'll be able to – that'll be a game plan against them, maybe?
Yeah, but if Beaver does do that,
yeah.
The thing that, I mean, even though Daisha didn't score that much against Oakland, I think she was the most important player because she was the person that pretty much every time caught the ball on that inbound pass and had to battle the press, and she passed almost every time perfectly out of that. There were a couple times where there were a couple rush passes, but other than that, she handled it really well. She was calm. She made some amazing plays, and she was one of the big reasons North Catholic won that game. So I think if Beaver tries to do that, it'll be Daisha's responsibility, and there is no way that Beaver is going to run the press as good as Oakland did.
I think you're absolutely right. And this team is so exciting. It's so versatile, too, what the girls can do. And they're finally starting to get healthy. Daisha's had some games under her now, and they're heading into the playoffs with a little bit of a break too. They haven't played since that game against Oakland Catholic, so they almost have 2 weeks in between that game and their game against Beaver this Friday, which will be on the North Catholic Sports Network. Ryan, Alex Jackson, and Callie Martis will be on the call for that one, and we look forward to that one and hopefully many more throughout the rest of this year in playoff action. And next, how about we talk about the boys hockey team, as they're having a pretty impressive season themselves as well, as they just qualified for the playoffs. And they're going to be either the 4 or the 3 seed as we head down the rest of the way this season. And they have one more game against Beaver this Thursday at 6:45, and that will be a game in which North Catholic should win. And with that win, that would give them 29 points on the year. But right now they have a 13-5-1 record, which is good for 4th place right now in the Varsity A Gold Division. And Ryan, I'm going to ask you this before we have an interview with Emilio Laracuente here in a second. But Ryan, that you played a game against Avonworth on Monday, and that was a big win for your team. And you led the entire way. Avonworth kept on clawing back a bit, but you got the game-winning goal with just about a minute left to give the team the 3-2 victory and send Avonworth home packing in a period that they absolutely had to win. All they needed was a tie in that third period to be able to make it into overtime, and they would be in right now in the playoffs. But you crushed their dreams with that big goal at the end. But what does that goal do and that win do to the team heading into the playoffs?
Well, it definitely gives us confidence that, even though a point there, we would be having the same situation now. If we beat Beaver, we would get the 4 seed. But just winning that one in regulation really is like a boost. You don't want to go to overtime against a team that is now a non-playoff team. You want to go. You want to win that one in regulation. They're fighting for lives and showed that no matter what, this team needs to win this game to get into the playoffs, that we can shut them down. I mean, only allowed 6 shots in the third period, and luckily on that last shift, I think it was about 50 seconds left. The faceoff was pushed towards, and then Emilio, like me, and he passed it behind the net, and he fed me perfectly. And I pulled it on my forehand, tucked it on my backhand right before the goalie slid across. It was a great pass, and luckily I was able to finish that one, and that was just really big because they were playing for the tie, and luckily we were able to get the win. I mean, we don't want to play for ties. We want to play for wins.
You play to win the game, and that's exactly what you did. And if I correct myself, the 5th seed is still a possibility, but you have to beat Beaver on Thursday. And Beaver is going to be playing tough as well, as obviously it's their last game of the year. Could be their senior night. And big game for their seniors and their team. So it'll be a good contest on Thursday evening. But heading to playoffs, let's have a little bit of a perspective and a look back at the season thus far from our interview with Emilio Laracuente. I'm here with North Catholic varsity hockey player Emilio Laracuente. Emilio, thank you for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
You guys have had a really impressive season thus far, especially considering the amount of new players you guys have brought into the team this year. How has the team been able to adapt to that challenge over the course of the year? And do you feel like that has made the team stronger at this point?
So last year we lost a lot of seniors. We had, I think it was around
13.
13,
Yeah.
13 seniors we lost. We lost our top point scorer. We lost some really key, crucial defensemen. But the upcoming freshman class has brought a lot of people on. They've really molded to the team, and we've all been able to become a unit and be able to work together regardless of who's on the ice. The chemistry is just phenomenal. There's no problems on the team. Everyone's morale is super high. It's been going really great.
Something that has made the teams very successful this year as well has been definitely in the back end. And by that I mean Dylan Bork, who's been sensational for the team this year, all-star as well, as you were as well. How has playing in front of him influenced the team over the course of the season?
Dylan's a great goalie. He's unbelievable. He's ranked first right now in Pill. He's just gives a confidence boost to the whole team. Being able to have him on the ice makes the whole team be able to play more calm, more collected, because they don't have to worry about some unbelievable easy shot just going in.
Yeah.
They can worry about playing their game, and it just goes from there.
And that's freed you up to do a lot of things on the offensive end. You've had 20 points this season, which is second on the team, only to your line mate, Ryan Berry. What has made everything come together for you this year to have such a successful and productive season?
So last year I broke 2 hands, concussion. I wasn't having a great season last year. I believe I only finished last year with 5 points, played 13 games, didn't have a great season. This year, me, Ryan, and Sam's been injured a little bit, but all three of us have really been able to come together as a line and absolutely dominate on the ice. We're always controlling the offensive end, and we make the other team look like, no matter which team it is, we completely control them.
Did you break the same hand last year?
Uh,
Twice?
One hand and then the other hand right after.
Oh my gosh.
Rowe broke it in practice.
That's terrible. Come on, Roe. Looking back on the season thus far, what was the game that you think you've played the best in as a team?
As a team, I think our first game versus McDowell, and also one of our games against Quaker, the first game against Quaker.
Okay, I would agree. That was a good one, too. But what made it that way, and what does the team need to be able to improve upon as you head into playoffs?
So our first game against McDowell, it was a revenge game.
Yeah.
They knocked us out of the playoffs the year before. We wanted that win. Everyone wanted that win. Not so much, the freshmen didn't really feel it as much as we did, but it
trickles down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We needed it, and we got it in overtime. It was a great goal by Colin. I feel going into the playoffs, we have this one game against Beaver left, and then going into the playoffs, we need to be able to execute the breakout cleanly. We need to be able to execute passes perfectly, because it all comes down to the wire in playoffs. Every team's playing their heart out, because a lot of the teams have a lot of seniors it's their possible last chance on the ice, so they're going to be playing with their hearts, and we need to play with more.
And as we head into the postseason, what are your goals for yourself and for the team?
So, of course, everyone's going to say we want to win the Penn's Cup.
Yeah.
We got these 3 seniors, Rowe, Chase, and Brock. Love them all to death, and I really want to get them this Penn's Cup. I think they have been working for it the past 4 years. I think they really deserve it. And me personally, I just want to contribute to the team and be able to make sure that I'm a role player. I don't need to have all these goals or assists. I just want to make sure I'm on the ice, absolutely controlling the game and making sure my teammates, and as a leader, my teammates are able to see me as like a beam of, how do you say it?
Of leadership?
A beam of leadership to just go off of and be able to execute on the ice. They usually listen to what I say on the ice. Usually. And I feel like whenever we have a lot of communication between the whole team, not just the captains with the players, but just players to players, our team just executes much better.
And I think that's right there why you've had such a successful season, is leading by example, and it comes from the top down, especially only having 3 seniors. Other people have had to step up, and you've done certainly that this year, Emilio, and we thank you for your time today, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
And you just heard from Emilio Laracuente and from my interview with him, and we really appreciate his time, and his success this year has been noteworthy, to say the least. Second in points only to my man to my left, Ryan Berry, who is 27. Emilio is 20. He's had a remarkable year. And going into playoffs, we expect more of that, the same. And look, quick notes before we head off and at the end of this podcast. The boys wrestling team has their individual championships, WPIAL championships, this Friday. And Matt Denninger qualified for that just this past weekend with a big win on Saturday. 2 matches he won, as he'll be able to compete at the individual championship, and he'll have a little bit of a tougher route than some people. He's going to have to play some higher seeds, but if he keeps on wrestling like he has been recently, he has a good shot. And then Angelo Emilio will also be qualified, as well as he'll be wrestling on Friday, as will Scott Huffmeyer. And congratulations to those gentlemen, and we wish them the best of luck. And Maggie Foley will be competing in the swimming and diving championships for the WPIALs on Friday as well. And we wish them all the best of luck. And we used to talk about Maggie Foley every year about this time, as her success has been remarkable over the years. And she'll be looking to continue that again this Friday as she continues her WPIAL dominance. And Ryan, that about does it for us. But we do have a little bit of a wonky schedule coming up for the boys and the girls, depending on what happens.
Yeah, we do. The boys, they play this Thursday, against Uniontown.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned earlier, Uniontown's going to be a really tough test. But if they win that one, then they would face Laurel Highlands in the semifinal. Most likely.
In all likelihood.
Yeah. Laurel Highlands has been dominant this year, and Rodney Gallagher. I mean, they were in the 5A champion. They won they won 5A last year. It might have been against Newcastle. I don't know if for that 100%. But they dropped down. They still have their arguably best player in Rodney Gallagher with them. And so they definitely have a lot of talent. It will be a tough team to beat. But if North Catholic loses this one, all hope is not lost. They can't win a WPIAL championship, but they can find a way to make it to states, because they would play this Saturday. And they would play, if they win that, play another game, I believe.
That's
maybe
correct.
If they lose, they play another game. But they could have 2 more games, which could help get them into states. So it's really confusing. But I think 7 teams make it to states, and there are only. How many? 15 teams in the playoffs? 16 teams
16,
in the playoffs?
that's it. I mean, that's
so almost half of the teams
have an opportunity to make it in. You're exactly right. And that game, if they were to lose to Uniontown, would be at North Catholic on Saturday. And I'm sure we'll be streaming that one on the North Catholic Sports Network. Whether we'll have people there to do it, that's a completely different question entirely. But we'll definitely have that up on the North Catholic Sports Network. And Ryan, I think to me this is my favorite time of the high school sports season. We got basketball playoffs. We got hockey playoffs coming up, and it's so many exciting teams. And wrestling has had a great year. Swimming and diving's had a great year. We have baseball starting up. We have boys volleyball, track and field starting up. It's a great time of the year to be a high school sports fan.
It is, and we'll have it all here on the podcast. Make sure you keep listening. A couple podcasts ago, we talked to Mr. John Donovan. That was just a great interview. See, if you haven't heard that, make sure to go listen to it. It's
Absolutely.
about a 40-minute interview with him. We talked about, it's some great advice that everyone should listen to.
Absolutely. Tremendous life advice.
Yep, and any other podcasts, too. We have a lot of interviews with
please.
all other students and athletes at North, so make sure to listen to that. And remember, we are your one-stop podcast for everything North Catholic athletics.